On Liverpool's Duke Street, a new apartment building has been approved, but shouldn't they have rebuilt those demolished facades? Across the river, a forgotten railway line is to become a park and public amenity. Could UNESCO World Heritage Status be returning to the city region? 3 riverside museums are being completely reimagined. An icon of Liverpool returns while another rots in the Thames. Plus, lots of images from the archive. Duke Street is in Liverpool's historic Rope Walks district with its merchants' houses, Georgian terraces and old commercial buildings. The building at 105 Duke Street was Liverpool's first public library. 118 to 124 Duke Street is where a new apartment development is in planning, proposed by development company Davos, co-owned by Home Bargains founder Tom Morris. Currently on the site there's a small surface car park with derelict houses next to it. The new apartment block will stand taller than the neighbouring houses and will be in a contemporary style. The brickwork and windows with smaller window panes are intended to echo, I think, industrial buildings in the district. Plans are for 37 one-bed, 46 two-bed and 5 three-bedroomed apartments. The new building will be built in an L shape extending behind the neighbouring facades, which will be restored. From Henry Street at the rear of the site, we can see the derelict buildings that will be partly demolished. They're in a bad state. It's many years since these houses have been occupied. Who lived here? If only walls and windows could talk. Some sections belong to the original houses, others have been added. This disused, decrepit jumble of structures will be partly demolished and completely transformed, so you can use your imagination to visualise what it's going to look like. The facades at the front are mostly intact and can be returned to their original elegance, but with a modern building behind. Looks like the base of the buildings will require a lot of work. We can just imagine how these doorways could look after renovation. The upper parts of the facades are in a remarkable condition, well preserved after 2 centuries. To me, they look very similar to the Georgian facades on Fitzwilliam Street, Dublin. In the 60s, a row of historic facades was controversially demolished to make way for offices. These were replaced in recent years, but not with a facsimile of the lost facades, but a reinterpretation using modern techniques. Taller and not adhering strictly to Georgian design principles, designed by Dublin-based Grafton architects. So, should they have built an exact replica of the lost Georgian facades, or was this reinterpretation the best option? I think it would have been nice to have a replica, but then I'm not the one who's commissioning the work. Back in Liverpool, it would be nice to imagine the houses that once stood on the car park being recreated, with their facades matching the neighbouring ones. I'd be interested to hear an architect's point of view on this, but it's clear this is not going to happen. The new building will follow similar design principles to others in the area, a contemporary style brick exterior blending in with the older buildings, a complement to them, but not a recreation of the past. Architects are Faulkner Chester Hall, working with planning consultants Turley. The proposal has been through the planning process, and on the 7th of January 2025, it was approved, so we'll see how it progresses. By the way, the Rope Walks district is known by this name because ropes were once made here for the sailing ships that once crowded into the docks. Rope makers needed a space that was long and straight to lay out the ropes, and that's why streets like Duke Street and Bold Street are long and straight. For our next project, we cross the river to Birkenhead with its magnificent old town hall on Hamilton Square. Close to here, a unique regeneration project will transform a disused railway line into a linear park. There will be associated new housing developments as well as a new home for Wirral Transport Museum. The Dock branch line is one of the oldest railway lines in the country. It originates in 1838. It's one of the many lost railway lines in Liverpool and Wirral. You'd hardly notice the disused line is there, as it cuts through Birkenhead town centre below street level in a cutting. The line was built to link the docks with the main railway lines to the south. Dock Branch Park will run from Green Lane Station in the south up to the regenerated Dockland area to the north. Let's swoop down and follow its track. There's the Queensway Tunnel entrance in the middle, with the curved roof of the bus station on the left. Conway Park Station, built in 1990, is over to the left, and Hamilton Square is on the right. The line passes under several bridges. A branch splits off to the right while the main line curves up to the left towards the former docks. The crossroads above the tunnel is on Market Street, And let's take a look over the bridge. The tracks were taken up many years ago and it's overgrown, but look at those arches. What a striking architectural feature. They'll look great when renovated. Imagine it with the footpath and cycleway, lighting, plants and other amenities, all accessible from street level. Right now, few people would want to walk down there, apart from YouTuber Martin Zero perhaps. In today's weather, you'd need waders and waterproof clothing to make any progress down there. We can imagine the past, with steam-hauled freight trains moving along under the bridges, belching smoke and steam. And in the future, joggers and cyclists, as well as people taking their dog for a walk. That's one of the ventilation shafts for the Queensway Tunnel. Now we're on Cleveland Street, and there's the not-so-inviting view along the disused line. I'm capturing these shots now so we can look back in the future. Not far from the dock branch line is Birkenhead Park. It's well known that it helped to inspire the design and layout of Central Park in New York. Its designer, Frederick Law Olmsted, visited Birkenhead Park in 1850 and was so impressed by the People's Park, he used many elements of it in his designs for Central Park. Birkenhead Park has been included on a list of 5 sites for submission to UNESCO. Now, this could be either good news or bad news, depending on your point of view. UNESCO famously removed their World Heritage title from Liverpool. Wirral Borough Council are to vote on whether to approve £1.5 million for improvements to buildings, gates, railings, the lake and other features. So why should Birkenhead Park qualify for the title? It's one of the first municipal parks in the world that was designed to be open to everyone. It was trend-setting in its day. I photographed the Roman Pavilion and Swiss Bridge with the intention of photographing them from the same angle after they were renovated. Due to the snowy weather and because I didn't have any Wellington boots on, I couldn't reach the viewpoints in the old photographs, but we can see the difference, including the restored roof on the pavilion. Like Hyde Park and Regent's Park in London, it's Grade 1 listed, but unlike the Royal Parks, it hasn't received Grade 1 style funding and maintenance. I'll be back in drier, sunnier weather. Decision day for funding is the 9th of January 2025. New development is going ahead in other parts of Birkenhead, including at Woodside Ferry Terminal, where you can ride on historic trams during the season. The U-boat story has closed, and the salvaged German wartime vessel U-534 will be part of a new, bigger and more ambitious facility. I visited the U-boat in its previous location in the northern part of the docks area. On the guided tour, I clambered with others along the entire length of the submarine. It was scary. In 2007, it was cut into sections for the move to U-boat story next to Woodside Ferry. Liverpool-based Big Heritage CIC, that's Community Interest Company, are developing the new attraction named Battle of the Atlantic. Planned opening date spring 2026. Work commencing January 2025. And it's planned to move Wirral Transport Museum into a new facility, part of the Dock Branch Park project. Things seem to be happening in Birkenhead. Now let's travel back along the Birkenhead Tunnel, or Queensway Tunnel, opened by the King, King George V, in 1934, not to be confused with the Kingsway Tunnel, opened by the Queen, Queen Elizabeth II, in 1971. The 90-year-old road tunnel has been in the news as a major lighting upgrade was carried out during 2024 and was officially opened in December. The cost was £11 million. The tunnel itself cost £8 million in 1930s prices. That's over $500 million today. Interesting statistics: 100,000 metres of cables, or 100 kilometres, 230 new electricity distribution boards, and 1,058 new LED lights were installed. LED, light-emitting diode. This lighting is the way to go, as it uses less energy and is more reliable. But as a photographer, I find them too bright and not very atmospheric. The old-fashioned lamp standards, with their yellowy-orange glow from the low-pressure sodium vapor lamps, are slowly disappearing. For me, they're part of the atmosphere of the 20th century. These sole-surviving early 1930s style lamp posts disappeared in the 2000s. An icon of Liverpool has returned under a new identity. Not the Royal Daffodil, but simply Daffodil. Royal can't be used now as it operates as a floating visitor attraction. Originally named Overchurch after a post-war housing estate, she was commissioned by Birkenhead Corporation and built at Camel Laird, Birkenhead. Completed in 1962, she operated the Manchester Ship Canal cruise, sadly no longer in operation. I travelled on her several times and I took photographs, one of which was used in an official Mersey Ferries poster. She was taken out of service in 2012 and, to cut a long story short, 12 years later, after conversion, including removal of engines and propellers, she was towed to Canning Dock where she took up residence, opening as a floating restaurant and bar with an event space in the old engine room. But let's spare a thought for the sad fate of the Mersey Ferry MV Royal Iris, still rotting on the River Thames in Woolwich in the east of London. As I reported in the last Liverpool update, Manchester-based Planet have submitted plans to add plants and flowers and many other improvements to the area next to the Albert Dock. I may have seemed sceptical at the time as I like the area so much, but visiting again I can see that indeed it can actually be made much better. The redesign is part of the waterfront transformation project that's going ahead here, and the timescale is 10 years. The Maritime Museum and Museum of Slavery have now closed for a very long refurbishment, 3 years. I visited on the Friday before closure. Very informative, absorbing, often distressing, but excellent. Still, they are starting to look their age, so time for a refurb. The rebuild will cost £58 million, leading the design of Field & Clegg Bradley Studios, a major architectural practice with offices in Bath, London and Manchester. Again, I'm photographing and videoing this area so we can compare before and after. Nothing stays the same, there's always change. Not always for the better, but hopefully it will be around here. In the museums, there were signs saying photography not allowed, so I was drawn to the windows and captured these atmospheric views of the city and river outside. Those old windows will no doubt be replaced. The imperfections in the glass, the grime and the raindrops gave the image a special quality, as if I had taken the photo many years in the past and not on Friday the 3rd of January 2025. So I hope you found this news-based update using my new format interesting. The response to my previous 2 videos has been positive. As I mentioned, I'm preparing channel membership, but the preparations are taking a bit longer than I expected. Hopefully I can launch with it soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, etc. Post a comment. Many thanks in advance. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und auf Wiedersehen in Liverpool und Birkenhead.